Our film starts with Richard and his mistress, Jen, going on a vacation to Richard's house in the middle of the desert. Richard has been hiding the fact that he is cheating on his wife, making her believe that he is on a business trip. They spend the night together, and the next morning, Jen goes to the kitchen to get something to eat. She is surprised to find two men standing and watching her from behind the balcony glass. She calls out to Richard, who opens the balcony door and introduces them as Stan and Dimitri, his friends who were supposed to come tomorrow to spend the evening with him and go on a hunting trip. Stan tells them that they were able to come early and decided to spend the evening with them today. He also mentions that they really liked Jen and they spent the day together. As night falls, they all start drinking and getting drunk. Dimitri, holding his binoculars, notices a black bag on the table and asks Richard about it. Richard explains that it is a plant called beauty plant, which is stronger than drugs and causes stronger than drugs and causes strong body numbness and hallucinations. He tells them that it is impossible to use it and their weapons are in the house because he cannot guarantee what will happen afterwards. He asks Jen to hide it in a safe place so that no one can find it, and she hides it in the necklace she is wearing. They continue their evening and the next day. Jen looks for Richard, and he tells her that he went to deliver their hunting passports to Merak. Dimitri is still sleeping due to excessive drinking the previous night, and there is no one else in the house. Richard starts giving her suspicious looks, scaring her. She tells him that she needs to go pack her bags, and he follows her and watches her. She gets scared when she sees him and tries to avoid him. He asks her why she is trying to distance herself from him, unlike what she did last night at the party. She tells him that she is with Richard and that she loves him, but he is not the type of person she loves. Richard gets angry and attacks her, trying to rape her until Dimitri enters the room and she asks for his help. However, he leaves them and locks the door behind him, continuing what Stan was doing. Richard comes back with the hunting permit and realizes that something has happened. He enters his room and finds Jen crying, asking him to call the plane because she wants to leave. He understands what Stan did and confronts him and Dimitri, blaming them for allowing it to happen. He apologizes to her and tells her that he will get her a good job in Canada and gives her a check with a substantial amount of money. Richard tells Jane that he will let them in to apologize to her. She gets up and argues with him, saying that she wants to leave immediately. Otherwise, she will call his wife and tell her about his betrayal. Richard gets angry and hits her, calling her a whore and saying that he only brought her for entertainment. Jane tries to escape from the house, but she ends up running in the desert. They all chase her to make sure she doesn't talk about what happened. She reaches a high mountain cliff and is surrounded by them. Richard pretends to be on the phone, calling the plane that will take her to the place he wants so he can get closer to her. He pushes her off the cliff and she falls onto a tree branch next to Jane. Richard tells them that he got rid of her because she could have implicated them all in the rape, not to mention that she would have destroyed his house if she had told his wife about his betrayal. They return home and burn everything related to Jane, preparing for their hunting trip as if nothing happened, thinking that Jane is dead and they are done with her. But time passes and Jane wakes up, hanging on the branch that saved her from death. She tries to reach her lighter to set fire to the branch below her, weakening the tree and causing her to fall. She manages to climb down from the tree, but the branch is still inside Jane's body. She hears Arabic voices approaching her and is sure that it is Richard and his friends. She tries to hide under the mountain, away from their sight. They look at her from above the mountain and find that she has disappeared. Richard tells Stan that maybe it's too late and they should look for her and treat her. Then she might forgive them. But Richard hits him and tells him that he won't risk his life because of someone like her. They search for her and find a blood trail according to the path she walked. They start following it until they reach a large lake. They split up and Stan stays in the car in case Jane appears around him. Each one of them goes in a different direction to search for Jane. Dmitri passes by the place where Jane is, but he doesn't notice her because she is holding her breath underwater until he moves away from her. She comes out of the lake and tries to continue her escape, but she finds Dmitri standing there, leaving his weapon far away from him. She tries to drag herself to take his weapon from him and manages to hold it, threatening him not to move. Jane shoots Dmitri with a gun, but Dmitri activates the safety lock that prevents the gun from firing. He then grabs the gun and hits them, informing them that he found it and will get rid of it. He meets them in the car and takes it, throwing it into the lake. He tries to drown it until Jane manages to take the knife from him and stabs him in the eye, causing him to fall dead into the lake. Jane takes Dmitri's bag, his gun, and the beach buggy and tries to drive away as far as possible until she runs out of gas. She continues walking until she reaches a cave where she spends the night. She lights a fire in the cave and starts to see what's in the bag that she can use to treat herself. She tries to remove the branch that is stuck in her side, which didn't kill her because it didn't hit any vital areas. She remembers that she has the beauty plant that causes hallucinations and danger to the body, so she eats it to numb her body and tries to remove the branch. She heats the knife and uses it to remove the branch from her side. She cauterizes the wound by heating the beer can she found in the bag over the fire and cauterizes her wound well. She faints from exhaustion and wakes up in the morning. Richard comes to him and tells him that he had fun hunting animals on his way, which is why he was late. He asks him about Dmitri's whereabouts and if he hasn't shown up yet. He goes to wash his face in the lake and finds Dmitri dead in front of him. He runs in fear to his car and sees Richard, so he puts a lot of rocks in his clothes to throw his body into the lake and dives so that his body disappears. He asks Eston to come and help him, but he hits him and breaks his nose because he is the reason for everything that happened. He tells him that they have to look for her and kill her. Jane continues to have nightmares and hallucinations because of the plant she ate until she wakes up and finds that the drawing on the beer can has been imprinted on her body. She takes all the weapons that were with Dmitri and moves out of the cave, looking for them to take revenge on them just as they are looking for her. They find Dmitri's beach buggy and realize that she is moving on her feet again. They separate again, with each one searching in a different place, targeting the mountains as she could be hiding among them. Jane is looking for them with binoculars and manages to locate Eston and his car. He is coming towards her, and they observe each other between the rocks. She finds that his car has stopped because it ran out of gas, so he has to get out of his car to refuel it. Jin is trying to aim at Stan with the gun, which she is using for the first time. She hits him, but because the gun recoiled strongly, the bullet hits her shoulder and she falls backward. Quickly, she gets up and approaches the car looking for Stan around her. Eventually, she sees a blood trail on the ground due to the bullet hitting Stan's shoulder. She starts chasing him until Stan wraps his shirt around the wound to temporarily stop the bleeding. He manages to hide from her in the mountains and tries to aim at her, but his shoulder injury prevents him from shooting accurately. He only manages to graze her with the bullet. Jin takes advantage of this and escapes from Stan's failed attempt to hit her. She grabs the flashlight she has with her and breaks the glass on the road. Stan steps on it and falls to the ground, trying to remove the glass from his leg. Jin returns to the car and drives towards Stan, who is waiting for her in the middle of the road. She tries to hit him while he is in the car and she shoots him in the head. The car goes off the road and into the mountains. Jin gets out of the car, throws Stan out, and takes the car, driving away. Meanwhile, Richard tries to call Stan, but he doesn't answer. He waits for him at the beach, where Dmitri's beach buggy is. Richard decides to go back home and calls the pilot to inform him to come and pick him up. He enters the house and hears a noise in the living room. He goes to investigate and searches the apartment until he finds Jen standing in front of him. He tries to escape from her, but she hits him in the side. He tries to hit her back, but she manages to escape into the house. Jin searches for him until she realizes that he is waiting for her behind the wall, ready to kill her as soon as she passes. She changes direction and approaches the kitchen, trying to find anything to stop the bleeding. Jin continues to chase him until she falls to the ground. Richard comes to attack her, but she is able to grab the gun and kill him. She then leaves the house and waits outside for the helicopter that will take her home after she has taken her revenge.